2, 1. Oh my God. Let's start the show. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. It always means so much to me. There's so much in the news. Ketanji Brown, Biden speaking with NATO, and so much more. We have so much to get into. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show.
Welcome to the revolution.
Come on,
What's
man.
up? Come on, man. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thanks, guys, for taking time out of your day to hang out with me. Let me fix my freaking camera. Sorry about yesterday. Yesterday, I met with some friends, and things happened to the point where I was like, there's no way I could do a show right now. Tiger Man, what's up? What's going on? Get in the chat. How is everyone feeling? I am currently live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, all the goodness in the world. Different time for me to go live, but because of last night's mishap, I figure there are still things I want to talk about and things I want to discuss, but let's get right into it. This Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, I know that's what some would call a microaggression for me slightly miscalling her name, can't define the word woman. The woke left just won't let her. Daily Wire says. Now, here's the incident that actually happened, and it's pretty straightforward, but let's listen to it because it's always good to hear it out of the horse's mouth, as I say.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Now, this is an interesting question. Now, this has been something that's constantly being debated right now in certain spheres. Not in my sphere, not in our sphere, because it seems very obvious to most of us and seems very straightforward to a lot of us, as I'll show you in a clip a little later. But this is something that the left is constantly fighting back with. This idea that gender, ergo sexuality, sex, is fluid. It's whatever you want it to be. It's however this community defines it. And therefore, as the community defines it, you have to agree with the community no matter what. But there are people like myself and you probably, because you listen to me and you listen to my channel, unless you just come on to troll me, is that you think that there is differences between men and women. And that's okay that there's differences. But let's listen to this answer from the judge because it's important to hear out of the horse's mouth per usual.
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
And she's a highbrow beaten scholar, so of course she's going to say, why would I? And I would do the same. Why would I defend it? But I'll tell you what my opinion is on it. But she says, no, I can't. What are you, nuts?
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
I'm not a biologist. I don't know if it's raining outside. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know if I see an engine in front of my face. I'm not an engineer. But as I was scouring the internet for one of the best known biologists known to man from one of the most underrated films of all time, he comes out and says this in defense of Blackburn.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Okay, so
Thanks for the tip.
thanks for the tip. And there's our greatest and most amazing person ever. As we go down the loop, though, and as I continue to show more clips, I had some thoughts that came out of the gate when it came to this pushback and this people are losing their minds about this. Let's stop pretending like we didn't already assume something like this was going to happen. That we didn't already assume that the way in which she speaks is not what we predicted. I mean, the left, the liberals, Democrats have been talking this way for so long. So this idea that like this is some insane idea, This is something they've been talking about for years now. They've been constantly trying to get to the point where we're fluid in our genders. And so when they have that idea, when you ask somebody, you say, how do you define a woman? Which I've looked all online, not that I'm trying to figure out, but I've looked online, what are people's thoughts on this? I saw somebody saying, asking how to define a woman is a gotcha question. It's a gotcha question to those who see gender as fluid. It's a gotcha question to those who see gender as an ideology, a mystic being that you can create into be whatever you want. So when she stops this question, she's just like, what are you talking about? This is insane. Let's go, Brandon 420. What's up? These ladies' stance on child porn should get her. Again, and I'm going to get into that in a second, too. So this idea that she can't define what a woman is, it falls in line with everything the left is talking about. It goes right in line with everything that's going on. That's why people on the left aren't freaking out about this. They don't care about any of this. And that's why her face is like this when you say, can you define a woman?
On the internet.
Okay, wait, that was an older clip. This clip. Can you define a woman?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide it?
Look at her face. What? Why would you even ask me that question? We don't know what a woman is. We're fluid in our genders. And then we get on to what Let's Go Brandon got in the chat, came out and said, is this clip right here.
In comes the internet. On the internet, with one click, you can receive, you can distribute tens of thousands. You can be doing this for 15 minutes, and all of a sudden,
she's talking about child porn.
You are looking at 30, 40, 50 years in prison.
Good. Good.
And then here comes Lindsey Graham, because he knows he has nothing to lose and that there's nothing he's going to do that's going to stop her from getting pushed through. But this is his chance to show his base how conservative he is. And so he hopes to get reelected. This is his bright and shining moment. He's like the Republican Cory Booker, which we'll get to a little later, is like freaking out about this. But again, there's nothing he's going to do except show a light to what she believes. And I think that's a good thing. But this idea that like what he's going to ask some question that's going to stop this process, it's just so silly. And it's nice that, I guess it's the one thing that's kind of nice is seeing some Republican come up with some sort of backbone as we watch Brett Kavanaugh go through a freaking trial, which was all freaking a lie from the day one, but they pushed it like it was some egregious action. But okay, we'll keep listening to this clip though.
Absolutely good. I hope you are. Good.
Allow her to finish, please.
I hope you go to jail for 50 years if you're on the internet trolling for images of children and sexual exploitation. So you don't think that's a bad thing? I think that's a horrible thing.
That's not what the witness said, and she should be allowed.
I like this idea too that she's talking about how you can just 1 second on the internet and then your life is over. Yeah, that's a lot with a lot of crimes, isn't it? You have a gun in your hand, and 1 second pulling the trigger, you can murder someone. And then that second should not dictate, because of how long the process took in which to commit the crime, shouldn't dictate how long you should be in prison for. Because if that was the case, there'd be a lot of crimes who people shouldn't be going to prison for a very long time because of how quick they murdered someone. And then we get to our most infamous Mr. Spartacus himself in his moment to bring back some civility, showing us how amazing this moment is.
Hughes wrote, "Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, but yet must be the land where everyone is free." Oh, yes, I say it plain. America.
Oh, yes, I say it.
Never was America to me, but I swear this oath, America will be.
And is and always will.
That is the story of how you got to this desk. You and I and everyone here, generations.
You're here because of your mother, and I'm here because of your mother as well.
Of folk who came here and said, America, I'm Irish. You may say, no, Irish or dogs need to fly, but I'm going to show this.
Look at her face. She's like, Dude, I'm not high enough for this.
Country that I can be free here. I can make this country love me as much as I love it. Chinese Americans first forced into near slave labor, building our railroads, connecting our country, saw the ugliest of America, but they were
I
gonna
just almost
build their
can't take
home
this
here and say,
anymore.
America, you may not love me yet, but I'm going to make this nation live up
What
to
are you
its
talking
promise and
about,
hope.
dude?
LGBTQ Americans, from Stonewall women to Seneca, hidden figures who didn't even get their play until some Hollywood movie finally talked about them and how they were critical for us defying gravity. All of these people loved America. And so you faced insults here that were shocking to
Shocking insults. I mean, we're not going to talk about what you said to Brett Kavanaugh. I had my Spartacus moment. God, the Democrats are so good at playing the emotional card, and Republicans are just so crap at it. They don't go over the top like Democrats do to make a play, and it feeds right into corporate media, the younger generations. And so I'm going to keep listening to this for a little bit longer, but I don't know how much longer I can take of this, and then we'll talk about the kind of final thoughts.
to me. Well, actually not shocking.
Do you think she's really crying right there? Or is that like, I'm trying to pretend like I'm in this moment with you right now, Corey?
But you are here because of that kind of love. And nobody's taken this away from me.
What is love?
So you got 5 more folk to go through. 5 more of us.
Come on, man.
And then you can sit back and let us have all the debates. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a well-charted Senate floor because it's not going to stop. They're going to accuse you of this and that. Heck, in honor of your person who shares your birthday, you might be called a communist.
God.
But don't worry, my sister.
Don't worry, my sister.
Don't worry.
I am your brother in this fight.
God has got you.
Okay.
And how do I know
And I am God. I'm Corey, and I am all that is mighty and all that is true.
that? Because you're here. And I know what it's taken for you to sit in that seat.
And then we have this final moment for him. This is a short clip.
Jogging this morning. And I'm at the end of the block
I just can't take how like silly he is as a human being. But let's keep listening.
I live on. And I get terrified because I put my music on loud when I'm jogging, trying to block out the noise of the heart attack I'm having.
Because you're out of shape.
And this woman comes up on me, practically tackles me, an African-American woman. And the look
She assaulted you?
on her eyes, she just wanted to touch me.
Ugh.
Because I'm sitting so close to you. And tell me what it meant to her to watch you sitting where you're sitting.
God, I'm just so sick of the left and them pretending this is the first black nominee to go into SCOTUS. It's just they're acting like she's Jackie Robinson to the Supreme Court.
And you did not get there because of some left-wing agenda?
Yeah, you didn't get where you are because of some left-wing agenda. Not whatsoever. And if you're to say otherwise, you're racist.
You didn't get here because of some dark money groups. You got here how every
like the Clintons. Wait, what is he talking about?
black woman in America who's gotten anywhere has done by being like Ginger Rogers said. I did everything
Whoa. That sounded like a microaggression towards me.
Fred Astaire did, but backwards in heels. And so I'm just sitting here saying, nobody's stealing my joy. Nobody's going to make me angry, especially not people that are called in a conservative magazine demagogic for what they're bringing up that just doesn't hold water. I'm not going to let my joy be stolen because I know you and
We're going places.
we appreciate something that we get that a lot of my colleagues don't. I know Tim Scott does.
What are you saying? Anyways, and then I have this silly clip to load up to as well. which I just think is absolutely so silly. But then we also have the First Liberty Institute lawyer, conservative nonprofit, opposing Jackson's confirmation for good reason, because she disagrees with her points of view, which we'll get into a little bit later. But this is just a perfect example of just how insane we are in this moment of not being able to define what a woman is. And if you have that idea, if you even think that that's a crazy thought, that's how split we are as a country. Is that there are people on the left that look at all these conservatives like Matt Walsh and people like that that are pushing this agenda of being able to define a man and a woman, which I think you should be able to. And I agree with that sentiment completely. But we're living in two different philosophical foundations of one reality being able to create new definitions to old words to fit what you believe to be true. And then we have another side that is based on history, some may say reality, based on biology or truths that we hold. One is more philosophical and one is more biological. And I know they all try to argue that biological side all they can, but it really goes down to a philosophical argument of what is gender? What is sex? After all, we define those words, right? So therefore, we can redefine those words all we want to in the end of things. And so when I saw the judge say that she couldn't define a woman, that goes exactly in line with everything that goes on in the left. And when I saw her not being able to give a straight answer when it came to court packing, that goes exactly along with everything on the left. And then when I saw her talking about child pornography and pedophilia, that goes exactly in line with everything on the left. They see child pornography as just a mental illness, that's something to help, not an actual crime. And some are even to the point of arguing that it's actually not that big of a deal as long as it's consensual. As if an 8-year-old consenting to sex is totally an okay thing to do. I don't think they should vote, and I definitely don't think they should consent to that, because that's for... I try to hold myself back sometimes in these moments because it's just so insane, but that's where we're at in this moment. And I would like to hear, and I think you would too, this Liberty Institute, this conservative lawyer, push back on the judge. And guess what? She's a black woman, so you can't push the race card, which I've constantly seen everywhere on CNN, MSNBC, is that these white Republicans are being so mean to her because she's black. Okay, well, does that make everyone that was so insane to Brett Kavanaugh because he's a white male? I wish everything went down to ideology and thoughts and we could just have conversations like normal human beings, but we're at a point now where that's hate speech. So I'm curious to hear this lovely person break this down for us. Let's listen.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. I am a constitutional lawyer at First Liberty Institute. First Liberty is a national legal organization with a mission to defend and restore religious liberty for all Americans. In addition to being a lawyer, I'm also the daughter of Jamaican-born parents, and I'm a former elementary school teacher in Atlanta Public Schools. I'm here to explain how critical race theory may impact a judge's judicial philosophy, including the fulfillment of her oath to uphold the Constitution, as well as to remain impartial and uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. Critical race theory, or CRT, is a subset of critical theory that began with Immanuel Kant in the 1790s. Critical theory rejected the principles of the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason on which the American Republic was founded. Critical theory teaches that all human relationships are relationships of power between the oppressors and the oppressed. The oppressor-oppressed lens of critical theory helped establish totalitarian ideologies such as Marxism and Nazism. CRT's key assertion is that racism is not the result of individual conscious prejudices, actions, or thoughts, but rather that racism is a systemic and structural force. CRT teaches that racism is embedded in America's legal systems, institutions, and capitalist economy, and it demands whiteness as a societal norm. I will address 3 of CRT's erroneous assumptions and the possible impact on judicial philosophy. Number one, believing that America was founded on racist ideals is wrong and incompatible with a judge's oath to uphold the Constitution. CRT proponents claim that America was founded and the Constitution was drafted to promote racism and slavery. Historians have debunked this claim as false. The truth is that America's founders were divided on this issue of slavery, and many of the founders were abolitionists. America's core ideals of freedom and equality, expressed in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, sparked the movements that led to the eventual elimination of both slavery and Jim Crow. CRT is sometimes erroneously analogized to the civil rights movement, and some CRT proponents even assert that Dr. King was a critical race theorist, but he was not. Now, King would argue that Bull Connor, the head of the Birmingham, Alabama police, and the Southern racists were violating the principles of the American founding, but critical race theory would argue the opposite, that Connor was the fulfillment of the American founding, because America was founded to perpetuate this white supremacy. Ultimately, we cannot expect someone who subscribes to critical race theory to defend and protect the Constitution, because CRT asserts that the Constitution is not worth defending. Such a view completely contradicts the oath every judge takes. Number two, a judge who embraces critical race theory perspective that America must address racism by encouraging racism cannot be an impartial judge. Contrary to CRT's assertion that racism is socially created, racism is the result of individual feelings of superiority and
I'm sorry, Tiger Man, I know. I'm just one of those stupid ginger white males as I show a black woman eloquently debunking CRT before our eyes. And I think it's, I know some of us are almost tired of like arguing against it, arguing for it, or hearing the arguments for it, but I think it's encouraged. I think we just need to keep hearing the same argument against it over and over again so it gets in our brains so that we are ready when it comes to time to talk about it. Because you constantly see people in public these days that are just like, CRT is actually not real. It's actually just a law study, as opposed to it being like a very tough and philosophical way in which to view the world, and that you can take those bits and pieces and bring them down to smaller levels. It's just like math. It's like you have algebra, you have, trigonometry. You're not going to teach trig to a child, but you are going to teach them math. So it's the same thing.
prejudice. There's no doubt that bad laws will further a racist society, but such racism must first be alive in the individual before it can become alive in society. Ultimately, when unaddressed prejudice gets married to power, there is going to be an unintended pregnancy, which will give birth to the evil of racism. Since personal prejudices advance a racist society, we cannot address racism by encouraging racist behaviors. Mr. Kendi, one of CRT's advocates, brazenly declares that the only remedy to prevent discrimination is future discrimination. In essence, CRT proposes that the oppressed group must be granted advantages in society to the detriment of the oppressor group in order to address past injustices.
Like putting a justice in front of all other justices because of a skin color?
Adherence to CRT removes the principle of equality before the law that is necessary for just decision-making. Consider, for example, how CRT philosophy could influence a judge's view in criminal sentencing. If a judge believes that the only way to correct race...
Okay, look, she is debunking the crap out of it. We'll go to this other stupid video and make fun of this video. But she is just destroying this idea. But I love this idea that there are Supreme Court nominees who are non-biased. As if that's such a thing. There's no such thing as a non-biased news network or a non-biased person in any situation. You always carry your biases wherever you go all the time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's just a part of life. And here's the Daily Show with Trevor Noah trying to mock a conservative pushing back on this Supreme Court. This is just funny. This is basically SNL at its finest.
Weeks ago, President of Slumbertown, Sleepy Joe Biden, announced his nominee for the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Are we going to get a judge here who's going to protect children or who's going to protect child predators?
She is soft on...
I love they use that as like a gotcha point. Like, yeah. Wait.
And some of the crimes, like sexual crimes. She also praised the 1619 Project.
Is she really? which is totally stupid and totally been debunked, but yet somehow is still celebrated and thinks that she should be in a position to be a college professor and have, can get paid whatever she wants and not ever be fired.
One of this country's great legal minds. One way to know, one indication would be her LSAT scores.
Exactly. Look at all these white racist Republicans on Fox News pushing back. I bet there's one reason they don't want her, and I bet we're going to get down to the bottom of it.
Who is this nice-looking woman, and why is she a threat to America? Well, I just watched 687 hours of Fox News, and I'm ready to Fox-plain exactly.
I love that they think Republicans or conservatives actually watch Fox News all the time.
Exactly who Ketanji Brown Jackson really is. Credenza Brown Jackson is part of the radical, far-left, Green New Deal geek squad of vaccine mandators. KBJ was a public defender who represented some seriously questionable characters, murderers, terrorists. Why hasn't she once represented someone not charged with a crime? Seriously, show me in the U.S. legal code where it says criminals have the right to an attorney.
Conservatives are so stupid. Got him.
I'll wait.
Costanza
Brown Jackson refuses to release her LSAT scores despite previous nominees doing so 0% of the time. I want to see Ketanji's LSATs, her MCATs, her STD tests, her AOL screen name, and her high scores in Tetris. Yeah, there's a new KKK in town. Ketanji, Kamala, Ilhan Omar. Do we
That was like the funniest part.
even have time to confirm a Supreme Court justice? We have an election 2 years and 239 days away.
This is so silly. This is Daily Show. This is exactly what they think all conservatives and Republicans or libertarians or anybody that's literally not a leftist thinks. They all think everyone's this way. They think my channel's this way. They think I'm just saying idiotic things all the time. And when I do say a lot of dumb stuff, I will say that. But let's keep listening. This is just so silly. This is their way of debunking everything against this judge.
Let's just wait.
She's pro-pedo CRT and pro-war. Yeah, I know. 3 strikes, and she will still get pushed through.
Couple questions for you, Ketanji. How high is your blood pressure? What's your JetBlue status? How far can you throw a javelin? Are we even sure Ketanji
This is just like everything on Fox News.
Brown Jackson is a judge? Because I have been hauled in front of tons of judges, and I've never seen her once. What word knocked you out of the 2nd grade spelling bee, Judge Jackson? Is Kimchi Brown Jackson soft on child pornographers? Sex offenders deserve the harshest punishment possible. Unless they used to host a Fox News show, in which case it's cancel culture. And that's everything you need to know about Ketanji Brown Jackson. It'll be interesting to see if she gets confirmed.
Jen Psaki can breathe underwater.
Oh my God. So, of course, they have a white blonde woman to make fun of conservatives because in the leftist ideology, in the leftist frame, they think everyone on the right looks exactly like this. This is their idea of a dumb bimbo blonde. This is a dumb conservative woman. This is like what they view you as. There are no such thing as black conservatives, even though we were just watching a whole breakdown by a black conservative lawyer taking down everything she thinks about this new judge, but that's it. And again, my final thoughts on this, she'll get pushed through. The not worrying about pedophilia is something the left has been pushing. All right? This is something they've been pushing all along. They have people that think that they should lower the age of consent lower and lower every single year. They don't want you, especially if you're a parent, they don't want you in charge of what your kids are doing. They're the teachers. They're in charge. They're the adults in the room, and you need to listen to them. They are pro-CRT, even though they pretend like it's not real, and they pretend like it's only a lawyer practice. It's only something you find in law school. In fact, it's just an ideology in which is pushed down further and further down as kids get younger, and simplified it in smaller terms as oppressor and oppressed, as always. But they don't want to talk about that because once people actually realize what they're doing, they will and see how racist it is, because everyday personalities like you and me can see how freaking racist it is. They can't define a woman. This is something the left is constantly doing. They're trying to make gender fluid, make sex fluid. Nothing's real. It's like even fat phobia. There's no such thing as being against Being obese, that's a medical thing that needs to be taken down due to oppressors and press. That's a skinny person's thing. They're constantly trying to reshape, redefine in which you see the world, and they will continue to push it to the day you die. They are fighting through this ideology through tooth and nail, and they will do whatever it takes in order for their agenda to be pushed across, period. Will they bump off Clarence Thomas? I don't know. Is he doing okay? I thought he got a little sick. But she'll get pushed through, and there's nothing we can do. And the Republicans are too weak to make a big of enough show like the Democrats did for Kavanaugh, which was totally based on all lies. And that's where we're at. And so I don't want to be one of these podcasts or channels that are freaking out and tell you that like there's something we can do. There's nothing. This is their ideology. I think people are just starting to wake up more to it. This is why elections matter. This is why who you vote for in life matters, period. Because when you vote people in, even the votes that you're like, I don't know, I just don't care, I just don't want that guy in there, they matter. And she's a young person, so she will be in the Supreme Court for a very long time. And I like how some leftist news sites try to make her seem like a lot of Republicans are for her. No. The only Republicans that are for her are weak Republicans like a Cheney or an Adam Kinzinger or something like that. Not actual conservative Republicans because, well, they're far and few between, and they're usually scapegoated as conspiracy theorists or just insane. So that's my final thoughts on this. There's nothing we can do, but it just goes to show again, what kind of agenda, what kind of thought processes, and the foundation of which they believe and which they think, and their pillars of the land, of like their pillar of not being able to define what a woman is. We're watching it unfold exactly how we assumed it would unfold. And nothing you can do, nothing I can do, but go out and vote and get engaged with your local politicians if you care about this stuff, instead of just, and I'm trying to do better at that too as well. Instead of just like freaking out and being a keyboard warrior, get in there, get your hands dirty, help people get elected that you want to see elected. Period. All right, we got more stuff. We'll check on some of the live news. Get in the chat. Tell me how you're feeling, how you doing, what your final thoughts are on Ketanji Brown.
Given that you said that, do you believe this bill breaks the law? Where do you think we're
Speaking
at?
of don't say gay bill.
I had a chance to talk to Florida students, parents, and teachers. And one parent, Jennifer, said it best: stop using my child as a political pawn. But everyone on the call, and these—
You mean like literally everyone on the left desk?
The intent here is to pick up.
Okay. See what else is going on in the world. I love this Indian news channel.
KGB before entering the Kremlin.
And it looks like something I would put together. Ooh, Putin's childhood. Oh yeah, we're welcoming 100,000
President Biden
Ukrainian
is meeting with NATO allies
refugees.
in Brussels in a high-stakes show of unity against Russia's month-long invasion of Ukraine.
Because these aren't single fighting-age males. These are women and children.
Biden is also meeting with fellow leaders of the G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the UK, and will later meet with the European Council. The meetings come after the U.S. formally declared Russia has committed war crimes in Ukraine by indiscriminately attacking and deliberately targeting civilians.
Did you? Okay. All right. Look at this. Look at this freaking news article. The far right's obsession with fitness is going digital. Opinion: why the far right is really into home fitness. Again, this is another one of those things that we're in constant cahoots with. Is what is obesity? Is that something you're allowed to even talk about? Are you allowed to is a doctor allowed to walk up to somebody who's morbidly obese and is clearly killing themselves through how they eat and not lack of exercise? Are they allowed to actually address the issue? Or are you just supposed to be affirming them as a human being no matter what, in a sense of like what they're doing is not right? It's almost like me watching somebody doing crack or fentanyl and just like, I just want to affirm you in this moment because this is what you want to do and it makes you feel good. So I'll let you do it. But here's another ideology they're going to start pushing is that fitness is a far-right ideology. Look, even in the picture, they have a guy's bicep, a white male at that. And then they have little Nazi saluters in the background. I don't think America is going to survive. Unless we keep fighting back. You must fight back. You must speak up. You must fight back against stuff like this. Okay. Got conspiracy theories. I got the wrong Paul Institute. Oh, okay. Here's another thing I think is kind of interesting is Russia decides to take Bitcoin as a payment.
То есть, по сути, как только евро-доллар перестать быть для нас расчетным средством, он для нас потерял всякий интерес.
Does anybody speak Russian here? Because I have no idea what he's saying.
Поэтому в этих условиях, конечно, мы поставляем реальные ресурсы. Это коснется не только газа.
We will take bitcoins at the gas pumps. We will do this because our rubles is falling and the American dollar is a crap. And make sure to use bitcoins. And like, share, subscribe, and here's my wallet.
So Russia to accept Bitcoin as a payment, energy exports. So they're like, hey, you want to buy our oil? Buy it with Bitcoin. Here we go, Bitcoin. Take it to the moon, baby. As America is trying to push their own cryptocurrency. Oh, God. Did you guys in the chat, get in the chat, tell me, did you guys watch Joe Biden's speech just a second ago? Because I did not, but I don't want to like talk about something you already saw. Such a silly. Oh, and here's CNN's report on who they think Trump is going to pick for the VP, which I'm sure is hilarious. No, you didn't watch it? Okay. Okay, let's watch.
I knew how much he, because we had long discussions in the past about his interest in making sure he had economic relations and economic growth with Europe and the United States, and indicated that he'd be putting himself at significant jeopardy in those aims if, in fact, he were to move forward. I am not going to comment on any detail about what we know or don't know as a consequence of that conversation. But tomorrow or next Monday that Ursula's having that conference with China.
Biden also just came out and supported $1 billion of aid to Ukraine. $1 billion. It's amazing what our Congress and government are able to do when they actually give a crap about something. They don't give a crap about you.
The 1st, on April 1st. We've had discussions because I think that China understands that its economic future is much more closely tied to the West than it is to Russia. And so I'm hopeful that he does not get engaged. We also did discuss today.
Take back time, exactly.
That there's a need for us to set up, NATO to set up, and the EU to set up a system whereby we have an organization looking at who has violated any of the sanctions and where and when and how they violated them. And that's something we're going to put in train. It's not done yet. So with regard to Xi, I have nothing more to report. With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages, and it's going to be real.
It is going to be real. Make sure you have a supply of an emergency food supply. I highly recommend you do so in regards to the pandemic and everything that's happened. You're going to watch food shortages like you haven't seen in a long time. Be prepared. Be prepared.
The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. And because both Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of wheat, for example, just to give you one example. But we had a long discussion in the G7 with with both
300 pounds of rice in the house. Good God, Tiger Man. Good for you, man. 300 pounds. Oh my God. Where do you even get 300 pounds of rice? Is that your whole basement? I don't even know what that. I guess I could imagine that, but that's amazing. Good for you. What kind? Lime grind?
the United States, which has a
Asian wife. Good for you, man. Good for you.
Significant, the third largest producer of
Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese. What are we talking about?
Wheat in the world, as well as Canada, which is also a major producer. And we both talked about how we could increase and disseminate more rapidly food shortages. In addition to that, we talked about urging all the European countries and everyone else to end trade restrictions on sending.
Nice. I love Filipinos. Good people.
Limitations on sending food abroad. And so we are in the process of working out with our European friends what it would take to help alleviate the concerns relative to food shortages. We also talked about a significant major U.S. investment, among others, in terms of providing for the need for humanitarian assistance, including food, as we move forward. Tarina of the Wall Street Journal. Watch out, you don't get hit in the head there now.
P.S. He was given a list, of course, of people who he needs to call on during this press conference, as there's hundreds of actual reporters in here. He's got his little safety list.
Mr. President, in your view, does President Zielinski need to cede any Ukrainian territory in order to gain a ceasefire with Russia, or is that completely off the table? And then also, do you think that Russia needs to be removed from the G20?
On the latter point, my answer is yes. That depends on the G20. That was raised today, and I raised the possibility, if that can't be done, if Indonesia and others do not agree, then we should, in my view, ask to have both Ukraine be able to attend the meetings, as well as basically Ukraine being able to attend the G20 meetings. With regard to, what was the first question? That is a total judgment based on Ukraine. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. I don't believe that they're going to have to do that, but that's a judgment. There's negotiations, discussions, I should say, that have taken place that I have not been part of, including the Ukrainians, and it's their judgment to make. Cecilia, ABC. There you are.
Oh, thank you. Sir, you've made it very clear in this conflict that you do not want to see World War III. But is it possible that
we could have World War III? What a weird question. Beginning of a question.
In expressing that so early that you were too quick to rule out direct military intervention in this war, could Putin have been emboldened knowing that you are not going to get involved directly in this conflict?
Sure.
No and no.
Okay, no.
I do not believe that. And to clarify on chemical weapons, if chemical weapons were used...
I love that could be actually a possibility, but, let's not have an adult conversation.
...used in Ukraine, would that trigger a military response from NATO?
It would trigger a response in kind. Whether or not you're asking whether NATO would cross, we'd make that decision at the time.
And my final question, because you're heading to Poland tomorrow, do you think that getting a first-hand look at the effects of this war on these millions of Ukrainians who have fled their country could change the way that you might respond?
I don't think so, because I've been to many war zones. I've been in refugee camps. I've been in war zones for the last 15 years, and it's...
Yeah, but have you been to Chicago?
It's devastating. And but the thing you look at the most is you see these young children. You see children without parents that are in those camps or in refugees. You see women and husbands, men and women who are completely lost.
Whoa, how do you know what a woman and a man is, Joe Biden?
And have no nose. You see the look, that blank look on their face. That absolute.
You mean the blank look like you? Sorry, that's so rude. I apologize.
Feeling of, my God, where am I? What's
the
going
children.
to happen to me? And so what it will do, it will reinforce my commitment to have the United States make sure we are a major piece of dealing with the relocation of all those folks, as well as humanitarian assistance needed both inside Ukraine and outside Ukraine. For example, this is not something that Poland or Romania or Germany should carry on their own. This is an international responsibility. The United States, as a leader, one of the leaders in the international community, has an obligation to be engaged and do all we can to ease the suffering and pain of innocent women and children and men, for that matter, throughout Ukraine, and those who have made it across the border. I plan on attempting to see those folks, as well as I hope I'm going to be able to see. I guess I'm not supposed to say where I'm going, am I? But anyway.
Oh my God. Oh, he's such a liability.
Well, I hope I get to see a lot of people. Marcus, Der Spiegel.
I guess for security reasons, I shouldn't tell you where I'm at. Ha 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 ha. That's actually not funny. I'm sure like everyone in Secret Service and other agencies who are protecting him right now, they're like, are you freaking kidding me, dude?
Thanks, Mr. President. There's a presidential election coming up in 2024, and as you know, there are white. Yes,
Trump train. Boo boo.
True. And there are widespread concerns in Europe that a figure like your predecessor, maybe even your predecessor himself, might get elected president again. So
there are widespread concerns. Oh my God. We're so concerned right now at the idea of the orange man bad coming back. Oh,
are there any steps, anything you are trying to do and NATO is trying to do here these days to prevent what you're trying to do becoming undone 2 years from now? Thank you.
No, that's not how I think of this. I've been dealing with foreign policy for longer than anybody that's involved in this process right now.
Yeah, and so it's amazing how crappy of a job you're doing, isn't it? But yeah, let's talk about your resume right now.
I have no concerns about the impact. I made a commitment when I ran this time. I wasn't going to run again, and I mean that sincerely. I had no intention of running for president again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, freaking right, dude. Oh my God, what a lie. I don't believe that for a second. That's like Hillary Clinton saying she has no intention of running again. Yeah, right.
And until I saw those folks coming out of the fields in Virginia carrying torches.
Oh my God, here we
Nazi
go.
Banners and literally singing the same vile,
sick
rhyme that they used in Germany in the early 20s, or 30s, I should say. And
no, you said 20s. Oh God, I'm just so sick of the fake outrage. It goes back to his campaign trail speech.
And then when the gentleman you mentioned was asked what he thought, and a young woman was killed, a protester, and he was asked what he thought.
Hey, Joe, what about all the protesters, we can call them that, all during the Summer of Love? Can we talk about those protesters? How many people were killed during the Summer of Love, Joe?
He said, they're very good people on both sides. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to be quiet any longer. And when I ran this time, and I think the American press,
which has been debunked. God, I'm so tired of having this conversation.
whether they look at me favorably or unfavorably, will acknowledge this. I made a determination. Nothing is worth, no election is worth my not doing exactly what I think is the right thing. Not a joke. I'm too long in the tooth to fool with this any longer. And so we're a long way off in elections, a long way off. My focus, if any election, is on making sure that we retain the House and the United States Senate.
Good luck.
So that I have the room to continue to do the things that I've been able to do.
Like ruin the country. Awesome.
In terms of grow the economy and deal
please.
in a rational way with American foreign policy and lead the world, be the leader of the free world. So, but it's not an illogical question for someone to ask. I say to people at home, imagine if we sat.
Tiger Man, spot on, dude. Repeat the lie until it's known as the truth. Or at least until you believe it to be true. I mean, if you do repeat something over and over again in your head, even I have caught myself like, wait a minute. That's not true. Why do I keep saying that? It's such an easy psychological thing to do to people around you. You can repeat the thing over and over again.
And watch the...
That's why narcissists are allowed to... not this person, that guy, can just keep going. Because they don't care. They'll fight you to the death. They're like, this is what actually happened, and if you disagree with me, it's because you're stupid.
The doors of the Bundestag broken down and police officers killed and hundreds of people storming in. Or imagine if we saw that happening in the British Parliament or whatever. How would we feel? And one of the things that I take some solace from is I don't think you'll find any European leader who thinks that...
What's he doing with the paper?
I am not up to the job.
Not one?
I mean that sincerely. It's not like, whoa. It's that. The point is that when the first G7 meeting I attended, like the one I did today, was in Great Britain. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And one of my...
And you said that, and then all of a sudden World War III started to happen not long after that.
My counterparts, colleagues, as head of state said, for how long? For how long? And so I don't blame, I don't criticize anybody for asking that question. But the next election, I'd be very fortunate if I had that same man running against me. Thank you very, very much. Whoa. No, yeah, one final question, right. Hey, wait, hold on a second, please. I was supposed to be an hour ago at the European Union meeting and to speak. No, and I'm thanking you. So someone I haven't called on before. You. Who are you?
I'm Christina Arcady from CBS. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Oh, CBS. Oh, who? CBS. Who are you? Perfect. God, freaking CBS. Oh, he's so dangerous, just picking people in the crowd like that.
Sir, deterrence didn't work. What makes you think Vladimir Putin will alter course based on the action you've taken today?
Let's get something straight. You remember, if you covered me from the very beginning, I did not say that, in fact...
Tiger Man, America's back. The taxpayer's wallet is open. Yeah. Don't you want to give to the state for the good of the Ukrainian people? Because that's where the money's going to.
The sanctions would deter him. Sanctions never deter. You keep talking about that. Sanctions never deter. The maintenance of sanctions, the increasing the pain, and the demonstration why I asked for this NATO meeting today is to be sure that after a month we will sustain what we're doing, not just next month, the following month, but for the remainder of this entire year. That's what will stop him.
You believe the actions today will have an impact on making Russia change course in Ukraine?
That's not what I said. You're playing a game with me. I know. The answer is no. I think what happens is we have to demonstrate the purpose. The single most important thing is for us to stay unified. and the world continue to focus on what a brute this guy is, and all the innocent people's lives are being lost and ruined, and what's going on. That's the important thing.
Joe's getting upset.
But look, if you're Putin and you think that that Europe is going to crack in a month or 6 weeks or 2 months, why not? They can take anything for another month, but we have to demonstrate. The reason I asked for the meeting, we have to stay fully, totally, thoroughly united. Thank you.
Oh, they'll crack.
If we could have everyone stay seated.
There he goes. Our great and powerful leader. I'm fixing my camera. Joe Biden. All right. Let's re-upload some of these clips. I use this website a lot for clips. Big fan of the clips. We saw that question. Great question. I love that. I've been doing foreign policy longer than anyone. Is that why you're so bad at it, Joe? The food shortage thing is like really creepy. Sorry. What's Justin Trudeau have to say?
These are conversations that we've had over the past couple of days here with leaders, but that we also had a couple of weeks ago when I was here. The contrast between the need to ensure that Europe's dependence on Russian oil and gas ceases, that Russia is punished.
What is Europe going to do? Really? I mean, seriously, this idea that they just need to like get off of Russian oil, really? Where are they going to get it from then? Huh? Just do wind and solar, you freaking idiots. God, I'm so sick of this.
With crippling sanctions, where at the same time we're able to pivot more quickly towards renewables. And in the medium term and in the long term, that is something Canada continues to be committed to, but we recognize.
I just wish some of these liberals would like be in the real world for once and not be in academia or higher thinking or higher learning activities and not just say things like, I'm going to cure cancer or let's just switch to renewables without thinking through 300+ million people in America just switching at the blink of an eye. And you think that's not going to, our infrastructure can just take it? Like I just
recognize that replacing Russian oil and gas in the short term is going to be important. Canada can play perhaps a modest role in that, but our commitment to reaching net neutrality by 2050, to hitting our climate commitments by 2030, remains as firm as ever. And indeed, the partnerships we're looking.
Yeah, Russia has been buying up gold for years. I know they're also heavily involved in Bitcoin too as well. So as they're taking Bitcoin at their saying, we'll take Bitcoin for gas because it's safer than using the dollar or any other currency. They can't take that away from us, which is very interesting. And China has been buying gold. Of course they have. Because they see what's coming down the pipe. I know a lot of people out there are calling people conspiracy theorists and whatever. You need to be prepared financially, especially if America decides to really fall into this whole American crypto wallet. Then the idea of ESG and social credit scores and stuff like that will be way more attainable in the long run.
Building with the European Union.
Okay, I can't take him anymore. Look at our president.
Mr. President, how does No.
I just, watching him walk, this isn't, like, it doesn't give me, like, confidence in our direction as a country. I'm just imagining this guy leading us to war. Look at that walk. It's like walking Grandpa down the aisle. It's like the slowest walk I've ever seen in my life. I mean, seriously. Like, I just, We're such a silly organization. Newt.
You want, well, first of all, if you want a strong reason to pray for the health of the President of the United States, you are reminded again today that that reason is the Vice President. She's not only totally incoherent, you know, he may or may not have cognitive decline problems at his age, but at her age, she's just dumb. I mean, that's not.
You're only saying that because she's a black woman.
Let's be clear. Kamala Harris may be the dumbest person ever elected vice president in American history, and that's why people keep resigning. I mean, if you were her national security...
I don't think that's why people are resigning. I think people are resigning because she's probably a tyrant in the office.
...advisor, and you were competent, and you'd worked hard, and you knew what you were doing, and you watched her in Poland break up laughing when she's asked about Ukrainian refugees, you had to feel a sense of total humiliation. So I'm not surprised that that particular advisor resigned, because it's very clear that Kamala Harris should never, ever be allowed to leave the country. She probably shouldn't be allowed to leave the Naval Observatory, which is the residence of the vice president.
Maybe we could put a little leash on her, like a harness.
She is a constant danger to herself and to the rest of us.
Hannity is trying to talk. Hey, it's me, Hannity. Remember me? People love me. Okay, look at Biden walking again. Oh God, the way he walks. I feel like you just like get a nice gust of wind could blow him over. Remember when he challenged an overweight man to push-ups? Come on. I wish he would challenge somebody like me. I'd just be like, yeah, let's do it. Oh.
Out.
Listen to this. This is right in Trudeau's face.
Based on Article 195, out that it would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a Prime Minister who openly admires the Chinese...
Oops, sorry. This is the problem of live shows, folks. I can't all be winners.
4, an article which was specifically designed to address this House according to Article 144.
There we go.
An article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a Prime Minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence.
Turn up the heat. Oh, I love her. She's amazing. I like that people booing. Shut up. Just shut your mouth. Shut your daggum mouth. All right. Do I want to listen to Boomer? Oh, let's watch this. This has got to be funny, right? I mean, CNN is in full panic mode, but yet they want to bring back Trump so their viewers come back. Here is CNN talking about Trump's VP pick.
All right, let me say this once and for all. I will not serve as vice president for either party in 2024.
Okay, good. So you're a non-biased source.
Oh, phone calls. Donald Trump hasn't announced whether he's going to run for president again in 2024, but he seems to have decided on one thing. Mike Pence won't be his running mate. Quote,
what? Why? Why would he not pick Mike Pence? That's so weird.
I don't think the people would accept it, Trump said in an interview with the Washington Examiner of making Pence his VP pick again in 2024, adding this: Mike and I had a great relationship, except for the very important factor that took place at the end. We had a very good relationship. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, end quote. Now that should surprise exactly no one who has been paying attention to politics over the past 18 months. Trump has never forgiven Pence for refusing to overturn the election results during the counting of Electoral College votes on January 6, 2021. Worth noting here, there's no constitutional role for Pence to have done that. Just saying. Quote, I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this, Trump told Pence of overturning the election, according to the book Peril,
which is totally credible, and we should use that in a video right now because it fits our narrative. But great.
By Bob Woodward and Robert Costa. I won't be your friend anymore. Huh. Now, who Trump might pick as his VP nominee is not a purely theoretical conversation.
Could it be Tulsi Gabbard? That's what I think.
Trump is showing literally every sign of running for president again, and there's been little to suggest that he would face any serious competition for the nomination. Recently, he won a 2024 straw poll at the 2022 Conservative Political Action Conference, and he won it overwhelmingly. So, we now know Trump isn't going to pick Pence again, but who might he pick? Well, let's go through a few of the most obvious.
I swear, if he says DeSantis, he's not paying attention. There's no way DeSantis would be a VP. No way. DeSantis is like president material, not a VP, but I digress.
Options. Sidebar. While vice presidential nominees are often runners-up for the party's nod, Trump is not the kind of person to forgive and forget, which means that if any of these people wind up challenging
Tiger Man, it was the review not to overturn.
Trump directly
How
for
dare
the
you
GOP
spit facts in my
nomination
chat.
They are likely off his VP list. Ron DeSantis.
Oh my God, I freaking knew it.
This would be
It's so obvious. It's like that's all they can think about.
the dream ticket for many MAGA loyalists. The Florida governor
For many MAGA loyalists. DeSantis isn't MAGA. He's just like an American first dude. Not everyone, if Trump gives the nod to, it doesn't make you a Trumpian. They like to conflate. They like to put everyone in categories. You can't just be an independent individual thinker. You can't just be, I think like Ron DeSantis. You can't do that. It's like, oh, Trump likes you, therefore that makes you a Trumper. I just, it's so silly. We're just a silly nation that talks about politics in a silly way.
Is the most liked of the politicians not named Trump within the party, and he hails from a large swing state. One catch? DeSantis has not been as willing to grovel at the prospect of a 2024 Trump candidacy as some other ambitious Republicans have.
Right.
Nikki Haley. You can count on one hand
God, I hope not.
the number of people who left the last administration on good terms with Trump.
I'm going Tulsi Gabbard. I think that would be a fantastic ticket for Trump to run on. That's all I'm saying, because she's a Democrat, so she'll pull in more independent people. And they wouldn't see eye to eye, and Trump needs to be challenged. He just does.
Haley, who served as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations during the first part of Trump's White House tenure, is actually one of them. Now, since then, their relationship has had its ups and downs. Whose hasn't? Plus, as an Indian American woman, she would be a different sort of candidate than Republicans have been nominating for their national.
Yeah, but CNN, you guys would never paint her as an Indian. You would just call her white because she's conservative.
Ticket in recent elections. Tim Scott. While the South Carolina senator has been occasionally willing to criticize Trump, he's also remained in the former president's good graces. Scott has already said he would endorse Trump if the former president ran again in 2020.
Get in the chat. Who do you guys think that Trump is going to pick?
And Scott would be a history-making pick for Trump as the first black candidate on a national Republican ticket. Glenn Youngkin.
First black Republican on a national... Is that true? Definitely not presidential. Maybe VP. I don't know.
Sure. Youngkin has only been the governor of Virginia for a few months now. I get it. But he...
Dude, they have no idea. They have no finger on Republican or conservative pulse whatsoever.
Proved in that 2021 campaign that there is a way to
Stormy Daniels
to thread the needle between the party's Trump-loving base on one hand and the suburban voters who were turned off by the former president's bombast on the other. Youngkin also discovered an issue, education and the role parents should play in it, that could well deliver Republicans the majority in the House and Senate this November. Ted Cruz. Remember that Trump loves
no.
redemption stories. Trump views everything through the lens of TV and ratings, and a redemption story always...
No, it would never be Ted Cruz, not after what Trump said about Ted Cruz's dad. That would just be such an easy talking point, and CNN prays if that happens because it would be so easy.
Always draws in the viewers. So what better storyline is there in 2024 than if Trump picks the runner-up in the 2016 Republican primary who pointedly refused to endorse him at the convention before coming around to eventually support him? For people who say Cruz wouldn't accept the vice presidential nomination, I can only assume you have never met Ted Cruz. Josh Hawley, the freshman Missouri senator, joined the charge to contest the electoral college counts in Pennsylvania and Arizona on January 6th, which made him a favorite of the former president and his most loyal MAGA allies. And at just 42 years old, Hawley would likely leap at the chance to be on the national ticket, win or lose. So who Trump will pick is a fun parlor game, admittedly, that we will play for the next 2 years. But don't get it twisted. VP picks almost never make any difference as to whether the top of the ticket wins or loses.
Right. It's not like Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris on purpose.
Voters vote for president with VP only a minor concern most of the time. And that is the point.
I think it'll be Tulsi Gabbard. That's just my thought. Call me crazy, but I think that's a smart political move. But maybe that's the reason why that probably won't happen. Because God knows our politics are so stupid. They just choose the dumbest candidate, like Democrats choosing Joe Biden over any other comparable speaker they had lined up. They chose the one that can't finish a sentence. Call it a speech impediment, not what it actually is. We're a silly nation. But that's CNN's take on what's going on. See what's going on in some of the news.
Шатаюсь, то мы сидим в ванной, а там стены шатаются, даже крем с полки упал.
Irina and her family took 6 days to get here. They ran out of petrol halfway, but she couldn't spend another minute in Mariupol.
I don't know really how to describe it, because you don't know, will you be alive in a minute or no? Will your son will be alive or no? One night, he said to me, my son, he is 10 years old. Sorry.
Oops. You know, I had it perfect.
See my birthday in August.
Giovanni, what's up? I'm afraid they might do to a global catastrophe to cancel. Oh my God. Giovanni, what do you mean? COVID coming around again and we're going to have to do absentee ballots? Why stop there? Let's just vote on Facebook. That'll be the safest and most secure way to vote, right?
Family or
Giovanni, I am afraid that's exactly what's going to happen. And they're like this war that's going on, it might spill over, and all of a sudden the government decides we have to have emergency powers and we have to take your rights away for the good of you. We're saving your life. Let's see what NBC is talking about.
We're asking that Title 42 end today, and that the United States...
Stuff like that or worse? Gosh, I hope it doesn't get worse. I do have like this weird, crazy feeling that like I'm going to wake up one morning and LA is going to be nuked. Like I have like this crazy feeling that like one of our major West Coast cities is going to be like nuked by Russia. I know it probably won't happen, and I pray that it doesn't happen, but I don't know. This idea that Russia is just going to like allow us to just basically cripple their financial system and the way they go about life, and they're not going to have any retribution whatsoever towards us. They're just like taking it. It's just, what a silly idea.
My husband is a bit...
They think that we're like so powerful, we're untouchable. Well, if you look at 9/11, Pearl Harbor, we're definitely touchable.
Russians stuck in limbo.
The White House condemning North Korea for launching a new intercontinental ballistic missile in what looks like Pyongyang's biggest weapons test in about...
I love that Joe Biden even today is talking about how America is back on the world stage, and yet all these crazy lunatic dictators, powerful people are starting wars, shooting rockets. Our U.S. embassy was shot at the other day. I was in Iran or Iraq, one of those places, and America's back. The adults are talking.
For about 670.
North Korea is shooting things. China has been flying over Taiwan constantly. But yeah, Joe Biden's doing a fantastic job in foreign policy.
Oil waters, but experts
He's someone to model after.
And they say that it looks like the range of this missile is actually 9,000 miles, and that would put all of the United States within striking distance. So clearly this is a problem, and it underscores that North Korea presents really a growing threat.
Watch North Korea start World War III. False flag in Ukraine could be coming in the start of war. Don't take your eyes off of North Korea or China.
This is in violation of UN.
It's the old sleight of the hand, Giovanni.
That it needlessly raised tensions in the region, and
like we're all focused on this region
Most
right
of the country
here.
remains under Ukrainian control. So where has Russia gone wrong? My assessment at the beginning of the war was that if Putin doesn't win quickly, he doesn't win. I think that still holds true.
I don't.
The Russians made the fatal mistake. They underestimated their opponent, believing they'd be welcomed as liberators. The Russians deployed some of their elite forces first. They failed to hold their objectives in the face of Ukrainian counterattacks.
I mean, I feel like this is like part of the propaganda too, you know, this feeling that Ukraine is doing a fantastic job and is taking down Russian troops. Like, I just don't know what to believe. There's so much misinformation being passed back and forth by both sides to the point where you're like, if it's too on the nose, it makes me feel like it's propaganda. Like, I don't know.
The generals have to.
And plus, if Russia is getting beat that bad, they're just going to fire more missiles.
Where so many generals have been killed.
In real warfare, logistics are fundamental. Poor logistics are Russia's Achilles heel, and a lot of their equipment is poorly maintained. They were told they were on exercises. They were not supplied for a long campaign, and their difficulty in resupply has left them vulnerable to counterattacks. This stalled convoy of Russian vehicles is a perfect example. In Iraq in 2003, the US dominated the airspace from the start. We expected to see the same here.
Come on, man.
But Ukrainian jets and drones are still flying. Their command and control remains intact. Russian forces are vulnerable to air attack. So why isn't the Russian Air Force doing better?
Russian fast jet pilots get somewhere in the region of about 80 to 100 flying hours per year.
I asked a friend that's in the military how he thinks the situation with Russia and China is going to end. He said, tell your family you... Oh, my God. Dude, that is... God, that just, like, freaked me out.
You thought the West would...
God. Yeah. And that's honestly something I've been talking about since day one of this. Like, I don't know what the end game is going to look like. I don't understand where it stops. Like, Russia just takes over Ukraine and then we just sit around and do nothing. Like, somebody is going to have to give up something they don't want to. And I'm not sure if either side is willing to do that. Do you think either side? Do you think Ukraine or NATO or us is willing to be like, Russia, just take Ukraine. You can have Ukraine. You can have Belarus. You can have, bring the Soviet Union back together. Or are we going to stand up? Like, I don't. And then based on what they want to do, like, I just don't know how this is going to end well. I just don't see it ending well or safe or where everyone's happy. Somebody's going to push the button too far. And you have too many egos that want to destroy each other. And we're watching Russia align with China and India, that's the craziest thing. And the India thing, when Trump was so loved by India, but now India is like on Russian side. And you have Iran. There's like so much going on in the world that we're just like pretending like we're not watching. It just feels like it will not end well for anyone. I don't think it will end well for anyone. It's not going to end well for me. It's not going to end well for you. We're watching inflation go up higher and higher, and we're just pretending like this is only happening on the other side of the world, that we're not actually affected by this whatsoever. As our government continues to put more aid with Ukraine, they send drones to Ukraine, they send military equipment to Ukraine, and we're pretending like we're not actually fighting the war with them. It's just... Anybody with a logical brain would look at that situation, look at what's going on in the world and go, America is just as involved in this as Ukraine is. The chess pieces are falling into place. It certainly feels that way. We could wake up tomorrow and the American dollar is dead. The petrodollar is gone. And like, I don't want to think that way. I want to push back constantly and be wary about that. I don't want to be one of these channels that's like, all hell's going to break loose. We're going to die. And that's the end of that. Be sure to always have purpose in your life. Be sure to, even if the world goes to hell, be sure you have purpose in your life around loved ones, survival, and have more purpose in your life than what the government. Don't let the government dictate your happiness in life. I know they have the tendency to do that. Of course they do in some capacity, but don't allow what Joe Biden does to ruin your life. Fight for happiness and fight for joy, even in the midst of suffering. I think it's important to do, anyone to do that. Reduce the amount of humans in the world government. Well, there's that. You know, you've always heard over and over again in the world that the world is an overpopulated region. I don't even know where that idea comes from, Bill Gates, whatever. But I mean, I hear my liberal father always talk about that stuff all the time. The world we're just so overpopulated. What was that based off of? I don't know. I'm just going to say it.
He takes home every month. Let's put that into context.
What's this?
In 1 month, and these guys are going to get for losing their jobs. If he thinks that by turning up here today
and implementing a new rule that will give asylum officers the authority to decide if immigrants can stay in the U.S.
All right. Let's get to this right here. Ron Paul talking about ending the Fed, which is right on point with what we're talking about, Giovanni, of the American dollar.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the weekly report.
I love that he has the podcast so much. It's so amazing.
And the Fed and get more Doritos. The government's Consumer Price Index indicates prices have increased 7.9% in the last year. While this statistic shows the highest rate of increase in 40 years, it still understates the amount of prices have actually increased, in part because the statistic is manipulated to minimize reported price increases. A stealth form of inflation is shrinkflation. Shrinkflation occurs when businesses reduce the size of a product so its price can stay the same. For example, Frito-Lay recently began putting fewer chips in a bag of Doritos, reducing the weight of a bag about 5% from 9.75 ounces to 9.25 ounces in the process.
A lot of people don't know that. They just think, well, prices haven't been that bad. Or like, are you eating less for what you pay? Yeah.
Of course, charging the same for less is a type of price increase. This week, the Federal Reserve increased the interest rates by 0.25%. This increase, it said, is a step in combating inflation. The Fed is also announcing that it plans to raise rates 6 more times this year. However, even if the Fed follows through on this plan, rates will only increase from near zero to around 1.9%. This is unlikely to effectively combat inflation. The Fed also indicated a commitment to reducing its almost $9 trillion balance sheet, although its official statement did not specify details such as when the Federal Reserve would start reducing holding. The Federal Reserve is facing...
Giovanni says, in my opinion, it's an orchestrated takedown of the United States. I mean, how many people live in the U.S. say this is who they chose to lead us? Starting to feels that way, doesn't it? I mean,
a dilemma of it.
You choose like the worst leader of all to pick, and that's who we have going on.
Its own making.
That's what you're told. Inflation is transitory. Then inflation is actually good. Now inflation is Putin's fault.
Continuing to keep its rates low will cause a dollar crisis. A dollar crisis then can lead to a major economic meltdown worse than the Great Depression. However, if the Fed were to increase rates to anything close to where they would be in a free market, that would dramatically increase the federal government's debt payments burden. The only reason Congress's reckless spending and the Fed reckless monetary policy have...
Whoa, Ron Paul, reckless spending? the government has done great things. They're not recklessly spending. It's these greedy corporations, Ron.
Not yet caused a major economic crisis is the dollar's world reserve currency status. One of the pillars of the dollar's status is the use of the dollar in the international oil market. The petrodollar, though, may soon be replaced.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia is considering selling some oil for Chinese yuan instead of U.S. dollars. India is considering using Russian rubles and Indian rupees instead of U.S. dollars in trade with Russia, including for the purchase of Russian oil.
Here we go. There is the realignment happening that people aren't talking about. We're just sanctioning Russia. That's all we're doing. We're not actually taking our influence out of the entire world at all.
This will help get around the U.S. sanctions. Concerns about the stability of the U.S. economy combined with increasing resentment of our foreign policy will cause other countries to abandon the dollar. Economic instability can lead to political instability, violence, and an increase in support for authoritarian movements, reduce the military budget, end all corporate welfare, and shut down all departments. The savings can be used to pay down debt and support those truly dependent on government programs, while responsibility for providing assistance returns to local institutions and private charities. Congress should also restore a sound monetary policy by auditing, then ending the Fed, as well as by repealing both legal tender laws and capital gains taxes on precious metals and cryptocurrencies. Ending the era of the welfare warfare state and fiat currency can lead to a transition to a new era of liberty, peace, prosperity, and full bags of Doritos.
It's like adorable.
Thanks for listening.
That'll never happen. The government relinquishing power so that the American people have more freedom with their money. God, I wish there were more people like him in office that actually cared about you and my freedom rather than our safety and security provided by the state. China and India produce most of our medications. Yep, they're becoming our enemy now. Yeah, isn't that great? And not only that, cheap labor is, as well. Most of our cheap labor is all through China, and we're just pushing them out the window. All right, I have to use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Teachers kind of on both sides
BRB.
of the spectrum, who one is worried about his job because he's spoken up basically against LGBTQ rights, and another, the union president, is worried that teachers might get sued because of the bill that everybody's talking about that opponents call Don't Say Gay, which allows lawsuits against school districts if teachers break the law.
I mean, Kate, just the fact that we're at the point where parents going to a school board meeting have to worry about their own safety. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, you talked with a mother. She founded a group called Moms for Liberty. This is after she pulled her kid out of school in 2020 because of COVID policies. Tell us about her.
So she used to be a school board member in Brevard County herself. She's conservative, and she actually lost her seat. We'll get into that in the clip, but she founded this group because she felt like parents didn't have a voice anymore. Take a listen.
Okay.
You pulled your son out of the Brevard out of the Brevard schools.
Yeah, while I was on the school board, we voted to mandate masks and other COVID policies that I didn't agree with for children.
A few weeks later, conservative school board member Tina Deskovich was ousted. She formed Moms for Liberty in December 2020.
Did you sort of see an opening? Like a need?
Yeah, absolutely. Parental rights constantly get stepped on. But the bigger problem was parental neglect. Parents were not involved, not checked in.
Why do you think so many parents have joined your group and are so much more active?
Because the establishment has gone too far, where they more slowly over time stepping on parental rights. They have just completely stomped on them in 2020, and parents were their eyes were opened, and not because
your face was opened. I kind of want to watch. Okay, you guys choose. All right, get in the chat. Do you want to watch reporting on conspiracy theories trying to take over elections, or do you want to make fun of The View freaking out about Judge Brown, the new SCOTUS pick. You tell me. Get in the chat. Tell me. I'm curious. Whoever tells me what they want to watch first. Conspiracy theory on taking over elections, or The View, or making fun of The View. Because I think it's important to do both of them. Conspiracy. I love it. All right. Let's see how this goes.
Reporters for Vice News travel the world.
I think this is going to be an interesting story anyways, because I like to hear what the left kind of thinks about taking over elections anyways, as they pretend like the last election was the safest and securest election ever. I was outside.
This is Field Notes, a show that sits down with our reporters to find out the stories behind their stories and how they got so close to the end.
I love that, like, the left is like, there is no conspiracy to take over elections unless Donald Trump would.
To track down the MAGA-aligned conspiracy theorists who are trying to run the nation's next elections.
Go.
Look, we have had such massive question marks with our election in Georgia. And the more we go through this, the more we understand, yeah, there were gaping holes. And I believe that President Trump won Georgia based on what I see.
You don't think Biden won Georgia?
I don't believe Biden won Georgia.
Liz, Izzy, thank you for joining me today. Take me through this piece about secretaries of state, the primary elections that are happening, who's running, and what was it like to report this? Liz, I'll start with you.
We were working on this for months because I think it.
And are you experiencing any trauma from talking to some of these crazy conspiracy MAGA people?
It started to come to light that Trump, the former president, had endorsed a number of these candidates
Russia. Yeah,
in
exactly.
key swing states. And I think that's, we make that very clear in the piece that Arizona, Michigan, and Georgia they mattered a lot in 2020. And
they matter to these white conspiracy theorists.
Trump endorsed there, and we were kind of looking at who these people were. And there was an event that they did back in, I think it was like October or November. We saw this event. It was QAnon adjacent. There was a Q symbol in the background. There is some weird conspiracy stuff happening. And we thought,
what a descriptor. There's some weird conspiracy stuff happening. What do you mean?
These people are on a stage together. Some of them have been endorsed by Trump. We should look into this. That kind of started looking into these Secretary of State candidates. Obviously, this has really, I think, become more important as more reporting has come out from the January 6th committee, and we are starting to understand how organized things were on January 6th to truly overturn the election results.
Oh my God. Oh God. I can't take these people and their fake outrage. It's just so silly. God.
Secretaries of state are going to play a huge role in the upcoming presidential.
It's like those grandmothers who are just like walking around the Capitol mindlessly of like, well, what's going on here? Those people are the freaks of society. You should be in prison for the rest of your life.
Elections. They have in the past.
I'm not saying that's all that happened there.
Like, oh my God, wait. Brad Raffensperger, who we spoke to for this piece, played a big role in the 2020 election. He was the one who said to Trump, I'm not going to find these extra votes for you because they don't exist. And we have counted the votes here multiple times. And sir, you lost. Mm-hmm. So I think that with all that kind of context.
Yeah, Donald Trump, Putin is always the fault. Yeah, well, the left likes to put people in categories. It's like, if you're not on with us on whatever we say is true, therefore you're on the right. You're a white supremacist. You're pro-Putin. You're anti-vax. You're what's an old one? I can't even think. You're racist. You're transphobe. You're homophobe. Like you're against women's rights. Like all kinds of stupid like dumb things. It's just so silly. When they start to put you in categories based on what you believe, they usually put you in the dumbest category they could possibly think of.
Context and backdrop. That's why we started pursuing this story, and it took a while to put it together because we had to go find some people because we didn't get sit-down interviews with everyone. We did with Jody Heiss.
Why? Because there's not enough that fit your agenda or your narrative that you want to sell today. There's only like 3 or 4 of them, and you're trying to create a narrative of like 100 people all thinking the same thing.
Gave us a lot of time, which
it is
which I really
beyond
appreciated. Mark Fincham did not, so we had to go to Arizona to find him on a few occasions.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because Liz and I had been reporting on a lot of the movements to audit or do forensic reviews of ballots, and in a lot of that
I hate when people talk like this.
Reporting, we've of course encountered a lot of people who speak up and say like, this is why I don't think Biden won in 2020. And it was interesting as we were starting to make a list of the people who were running for Secretary of State.
I also like how they make a big deal about this as if like they didn't say the same exact thing when Donald Trump won against Hillary Clinton for like years, or when Bush won, or like, it's just like, it's always been the case. Whatever side loses, they claim election fraud. Whether it's true or not, that's something we can get into. But like, if Donald Trump wins the next election, they will say the same thing, and then conservatives will go, "Oh, now you think this?" So I don't know. It just swings and roundabouts, and just be prepared for that.
Names were popping up that we had previously seen, like Mark Fincham is a state representative in the state of Arizona who had gone.
Definitely one of the weirdest elections. I think it's so disingenuous when people don't even acknowledge that during a pandemic where people were all doing more absentee ballots than ever before. Like this idea that like it's the same exact election and you shouldn't question it. It's so dumb. Like, I don't know.
To like look at how the cyber ninjas were conducting the audit there, and we had previously reported on him being one of many elected officials who went. And so it was interesting, like a lot of the people who were part of this groundswell to question the results of 2020 were then like tapped because they tapped into this like support for questioning those results. And now Secretary of State positions are really like the position that you turn to in politics, because if you want to tap into that doubt that a lot of Trump supporters have in 2020, like that's a great role. That's the role that is going to determine whether or not people have faith in
Yeah, I know, Leslie Giovanni.
Let me press on that. Why is that? Because, I mean, I guess I know what secretaries of state do, but maybe you can put that more plainly. Like, what do they do as it relates to elections, and why?
I love when people don't actually know what somebody does, and they're like, yeah, I know that band, but can you refresh me on it?
Is it this pressure point now for people seeking to influence the way elections are counted?
Yeah, so in 37 states, they don't all function the same. But in at least 37, a Secretary of State is the person who is like in charge of elections, and they get the final sign off on what the results were. So you of course have elections officials who work on a county level, but a Secretary of State is the one who signs off and says like, I certify these results. And so they have, interestingly, a power that like now we are going to have to pay more attention to, where they could possibly deny certifying or decline to certify results.
You're going to be the vote counter in Georgia.
Are you saying like if Trump wins the next election that they have the power to do the exact same? So it's always like the right attacking, when usually in reality it's the left that is the one doing it. But
is he asking you to find votes for him, do you think?
Well, he certainly has not asked any of that type of thing. I mean, I take
but
we've reported on that.
Something like asking the people that are running for Secretary of State, or in some cases, Attorney General of the state, to find the votes for him.
No, I don't take it that way. Look, what my purpose and my goal is to have fair, honest elections. The issue is not who wins. The issue is, was it an honest election?
The most interesting, I think, interview that we did, or at least the most combative one, was when Liz and I went to Arizona, and Liz approaches Mark Fincham, who says, if I had been in this role in 2020, I wouldn't have certified the election results. And we reached out to a bunch of legal officials, and they were like, we could sue him to compel him to do his job, but like, yeah, no one has ever done that, like said, I wouldn't certify the election results. So it's interesting. This is what Trump supporters are calling for now, is like, you need to decertify election results. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens if some of these individuals win in 2022 and to see what they do in 2024.
Well, not just Trump supporters, it's former President Trump himself, right? And I think that's what's so intriguing about this moment is that you have a defeated former president literally saying we have to pay attention to who counts the votes because they might be more important than the people who actually vote, which is like a pretty messed up concept.
Yeah, Democrats have never done anything like that, ever.
But it does put into play these democratically elected officials who are secretaries of state, which is like, yeah, now we have to pay attention to them.
Izzy kind of summarized this, but
So like Democrats have been doing it for so long?
We don't have a whole lot of background for what happens if a Secretary of State says, I don't want to certify this election, because in a lot of these states we found, and Georgia, I know especially is one of them, that the Secretary of State and the governor are both the two signatures that certified the 2020 election results. So if Raffensperger had actually said no, we don't know what would have happened. It could have gone into a long, protracted legal battle. And then what does Mike Pence do? You know, it sort of just raises all of these questions. And I think that that is what, to me, is kind of the most interesting, scariest part about this, is that some of these people who are running, I would say, especially in this case, Mark Fincham, is very partisan. And in the case,
yeah, unlike the Democrats, our country is starting to build to a boiling point. It feels like, because I know all these Democrats are so relaxed and everything about what's going on in the world at the moment. But you watch if Trump wins and if the red tsunami or whatever they believe is going to happen in the next election, you watch the crazy meter get bumped up and the world ending bumped up. We go in this cycle. I do miss the 70s and 80s. The outright gaslighting and the lack of human decency is getting worse by the day. I wonder if it's exactly the same, Giovanni, but because of social media, we're able to call out some of these news agencies, these politicians, more than ever before. They're held to a higher standard more than ever before because there's so much information. There's so many cameras out there. There's so easy for you and I to look up information. So when Joe Biden says something that's completely a lie or fabricating the truth or his take or whatever words you want to use, people can call him out. And I don't think you got that in the 70s and 80s with cell phones and social media and stuff like that. So these news reporters who were probably gaslighting just as much as they are today, they were never held to a higher standard because there wasn't as many people reading the news or conversations like me and you. Like I've never met you, Giovanni. I've never met you in life, and I might not ever meet you. But this conversation is able to happen due to YouTube and social media and stuff like that. And so you and I are able to see stuff and help each other see the world in a different light together. And I think that just didn't happen before. Hey, I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot. You can also say that's a stupid point. Like, I'm okay with that.
Case of Jody Heiss, I asked him this on camera. We didn't include it in the story, but he does not have a lot of election experience.
Sure.
And that is also going to potentially be an issue running these elections when you have so many people who think that they're election experts now, who are looking on the internet.
Like you. God. I love it. Like journalists pretend like the expert thing. That was another thing from the SCOTUS hearings. The left loves the expert tag because it's an academic tag, and then therefore it also relieves pressure from them having to define anything. They can just say, I'm just following expert advice. I don't need to look into it myself.
At what's happening in arenas around the country and filing affidavits and lawsuits and sort of all of these conspiracies that we've seen. Heiss said to me when I asked him what kind of election experience he had, he said to me, well, I have been following this from the state and federal level, and then I'm going to have a great team of people around me. That's fine and well, but in this moment right now, I think there is such a heightened scrutiny around what's happening. And honestly, I could see a situation where if Heiss wins and then he's the Secretary of State in 2024 for the presidential election, I could see Democrats suing him or sounding the alarm and saying he didn't conduct this in the right way. I mean, there's just, it really opens up
That's a fair point.
So many bad avenues of continuing to question the election results in this country and continuing to, in some ways, undermine the democratic process and democracy overall.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of your series, Breaking the Vote, that the DC Bureau is doing such great work, seeing kind of the texture of how this breakdown is happening. And one hallmark of American democracy is that it's not top down. It goes from county, town to county to state. Like, it's administered by the people that are our neighbors. We are participants in our own democracy to the level of actually being the people who conduct our democracy. And so this is like a real weird turning point where there's a weaponization of those once functionary almost roles, right? So there's two candidates who you kind of are able to interview. Heiss in Georgia, who sat down with you, had, talked about his candidacy. Why?
Oh, it's like two people, and they're like trying to create a whole narrative based on two people. That's like the most media-driven idea. It's just like creating an entire narrative on a subgroup based on two people. God. Most of the people are being groomed to special interest groups and living outside. Yeah, exactly.
The other candidate in Arizona, Fincham, state senator, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't he want to talk to you guys? I mean, he's running for office, right? And there's an election, their primaries are...
Yeah, why would a politician not want to talk to Vice News? It's not like you guys cut up clips and take people out of context ever. People don't trust the media anymore. Hello.
Or what, later this spring. Generally speaking, if you're a candidate, you want to get your message out. We're a national news organization. Why was he ducking your calls?
I mean, he wasn't the only one, and you made some of these emails yourself, but I think there were a total of 3 candidates, Jim Marchand, Christina Caramo, and Mark Fincham, who didn't respond to our emails, and I think that's part of their strategy. They seem to be very combative towards the press.
Don't you have to go to an elite college to even get anywhere in politics? Definitely being welcomed into politics for sure. Because it's not, like in life, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, you look at people like Major Taylor Greene. That's why she's a little firecracker, but she's also hated because she's not part of the engine that is politics.
And I think that was something that they decided they're not going to speak.
Like, politicians hate the idea of someone like me or you running for office because it's what do you know? What do you know? You don't know anything about how this works. And you're like, what do you know about being an average everyday human? You don't. You make $200,000 a year, your name's Joe Biden, and you're a multimillionaire with houses all over the country, and I'm supposed to just be like, yeah, that makes sense. Making $200,000 a year and being a multimillionaire and your whole family is rich out of your dreams. Sure, that makes total sense. Yeah, I know nothing about what corruption looks like or kicking it to the big guy.
Speak to the mainstream media. We try to actually access them.
Do they actually interview anybody, or are they
called the Patriot Double Down? And the organizers of that conference said Vice will never have access to any of our events. So we're starting to see from the outset, they have decided that they're only going to speak to outlets who are friendly to them and buy into this message that the election was stolen.
Or
but
just
I guess Liz can
paint
speak
them
more
fairly.
To. Some of them responded and said we'll never be available for an interview to you specifically.
Yeah, Christina.
Oh, it's like hate speech.
Caramo emailed us back and she just said, we're not going to participate in this interview. And look, we're journalists. We get that from people. I mean, let me rephrase that. We get those kinds of responses. I always want to talk with everyone because I want to hear what you're running on. What would you do as Secretary of State? Would you have certified the last election? So yeah, I mean, we had reached out to some folks, but I did think that for me, it was great. And as a reporter, it was really nice to have time with Jody Heiss because he gave us the time. We got to an event that he had. We spoke with folks. We didn't use it in the piece, but we spoke with some of the voters there, just kind of hearing about, Georgia is really, I would say, kind of ground zero for these midterms.
And then, Davos World Economic Forum. I mean, looking on the outside of the box, it makes sense. You have these clubs and people that all decide and give a wink and a nod and shake hands together saying, I won't hurt you. I'm here to help you. And they go, all right, I'll kick you some money. So it makes sense. It's weird for sure, but it makes sense that there are like groups like that in the world. I mean, I experienced some of it. I had some family in politics for a little while, and they got out because it is such a good old boy or a good old girl club where once you're a part of it, you're a part of it. And like they expect you to act in certain ways if you want to be recommended by the higher ups.
Just in terms of where I think most of the money will be spent and most of the focus will be. So it was great to go talk with voters there and to have time with him and to hear what he's running on.
Like I was just thinking, like someone like me, I could never run for politics, never, because I don't take crap from anyone. If someone told me I needed to support a bill because they're one of my donors, I'd tell them to go screw themselves. And I can't bite. I'm not one of the people out there that can just bite my tongue and just be like, sir, I'm going for the common good.
And I give him a lot of credit for that. And Fincham, we had to, kind of run around to go ask him some questions. And we found him on two different instances, and he was not all that eager to take our questions when we did.
Yeah, let's actually watch one of the interactions that you had with Fincham, because it's pretty wild.
I would have deferred signing it until we had one of two things happen. We either have an audit or we have the legal cases adjudicated, because neither thing had happened.
Okay. Well, then there was an audit, and then there wasn't any proof of any major votes that would have changed the result.
You have not even looked at it, have you?
We were here over the summer.
Okay, so you need to go to Arizona.
Sir, there's no evidence, though, of widespread voter fraud.
That is absolutely crap, and you know it. You didn't look at the findings.
I did read the findings.
Okay, a pretty combative.
I probably agree with him. I hate these people that just like say this thing because it's the truth that we all just accept. And you're like, did you look at it? I was there. They would try to cancel me. They would do whatever it takes to get rid of somebody like me. And I would welcome it. I would not be one of those politicians who are scared of the New York Times.
Gentleman towards you, Liz. It's funny, you were at the Cyber Ninjas recount. I remember that piece. And he's sort of saying, hey, you haven't like studied up on this stuff, which clearly you had. I kind of wonder, like,
based on what?
Is
just
his
clearly
outrage
you had
a performance too? Because like it's like he's ducking you for some reason, but also like, is he scoring points with the base that he hopes to come out in an election by being mean to you, Liz?
Oh, shut up, God. Yeah, the Democrats would never do fake outrage in order to score points for their base. That's a right-wing thing. Oh my gosh, these people are so funny. They're just so silly.
Totally, and I would say that
totally, I'm a
perhaps
victim
the
here.
proof in the pudding is that a few weeks after this piece aired, initially, that Vice News was featured, and our clip and our story was featured in a fundraising email that Mark Fincham did.
Wow.
So yes, I think that doubling down on that kind of behavior and painting the press as being, extreme enemy of the people, kind of fake news. He called us tabloid news when we saw him. I do think that that is a sort of strategy in the vein of how the former president acted, right? Donald Trump acted like that for the last few years. And I think that a lot of the base responds well to that. So I do think that perhaps...
Yeah, we would never paint people in a certain brush in order to progress our agenda onto the American people. We would never do that. We're different. We're Vice.
will rally folks
so
around
silly.
him in this Arizona primary that's coming up.
Yeah, and our preference too, like just to be clear, they may accuse us of having like a liberal slander, but like our preference was
because you do
to do like very well-produced, thoughtful, nuanced, long interviews with each of these candidates. We would have happily traveled to them.
That's like the most pompous thing in the world. You're just like, our news is just, how do I say this? We're philosophers of our time.
I'm a day of your preference, and they didn't want to give us that opportunity. So then they get angry with us because we like had to stake out events where we knew they would be on public property and we'd be able to approach them. And it's just like, we gave you the opportunity
Simply a
to speak
perfect
for
time for the
yourself
crazy
and like
people
really
to
give
push
us a
their madness.
full answer,
Exactly,
and you didn't want to
Giovanni.
do it through that avenue. So like, don't get mad at us for just trying to get answers. Like, you're running for a public office. It's not like I'm impeding or like invading your privacy.
Yeah. And well, here's the interesting thing that I found about the piece.
No, it's like they still don't get it. It's not that you're invading their privacy. It's that they know you're going to lie and cut up things in order to paint them in a light which makes them look negatively or makes them look in a negative light. They assume you're going to do that because you have a track record of doing that. That's why Democrats will be like, oh, Vice News, come in my office. Heck yeah. Put that awesome filter on me. Put that awesome camera on me. Make it look super artsy and cool.
Which was, there's a regionality to these elections, right? These are local elections at the state level, but you know, you appeal to the people who are going to be your constituents effectively. And yeah, I think in Arizona, his combative style, the hat that he's wearing, the kind of like, yeah, it plays well to that concept of, I guess, American Western masculinity.
How dare you wear a cowboy hat? You're just playing a role. It's not that you actually like the cowboy hat. And I'm sure you drive a truck too, you sicko.
If that exists in that way. But with Heiss in Georgia, he was like a respectable guy who took the time to talk to you guys, you know,
He's a sitting U.S. congressman too, I feel like.
He's a sitting U.S. congressman, right, true. But he's also saying a lot of the same things that are effectively unfounded in the truth. So his the rapping that he is
based
offering
on what
this
you
message
believe
is
to
much
be
more
true.
respectable, but maybe not that much less destructive to the concept of...
The extreme left feels like it's their time to shine. They always feel like it's their time to shine. It's always about them.
American democracy.
It was like when we watched Cory Booker have his little Spartacus moment.
Yeah, it's not that different than what Fincham is saying in terms of believing the big lie, saying that he, you know, we had several exchanges on camera about him saying that he really does not believe that Joe Biden won the state of Georgia. He voted to decertify the election results even after the January 6th insurrection. So yes, I would say that if we're looking at sort of the big picture of his politics, it is in the same vein as Fincham. But yeah, I mean, I think he is a congressman. He understands, I think, that you can't, well, I won't say that there are not people in Congress that act the way that Fincham does towards the press. There are certainly members of Congress that act like that, but there are not as many, I guess.
I love that it's like a report that they put together, but it's really just like a TED Talk or a podcast.
Yes.
Well, it's also notable that he's
What
a
is
U.S.
this?
congressman who's running for a Secretary of State position. Now, I mean, no shade on Secretary of State, but I think most people would consider that a demotion almost. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I asked Heiss in our interview if Trump had asked him to run for Secretary of State, because that is also a question. Why are you going from a federally elected office to a statewide office? He said no, that Trump had not asked him to run for office. He said that he and his wife had prayed about it. He's a pastor, he's very religious. He kind of presented that to the group when he was talking about his decision to run. And I think that he was a member of the Freedom Caucus, that he became close with Trump during the former president's tenure in the White House. And he seems to really feel like Trump won the last election, and this is what he can do to kind of step up and protect elections going forward.
Let's talk about the sitting Secretary of State of Georgia. Is that Brad Raffensperger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You interviewed him as well. And I got to say, I actually kind of felt bad for him a little bit in the interview, because he's sort of caught between, I want to...
Did you just assume their talks? I did. Yes, I did.
Advocate for Republican positions as far as policies are concerned. And, you know, election integrity is sort of one of them, however you want to think about what that means. He kind of like says Stacey Abrams is trying to like ruin the elections in our state, and this guy Heiss, I'm running against him, and he's lying, or like, you know, he's believing in the big lie. And he was the one who obviously fielded the call from President Trump back in 2020, I guess. And I don't know.
All right, this is like slowly getting boring. I need to take a break from the pompousness of it.
The world today.
Beth Rigby.
Well, Hallie Jackson starts right now.
All right. Do I want to laugh is the question. Is this almost time for The View. Because I feel like I need to laugh. And I think it's important to laugh and mock these human beings. Oh, got a new clip of Biden.
Congratulate a man who just got reelected. Oh, I came to congratulate a man who just got reelected without opposition. I dream about that someday.
What?
Oh, I came to congratulate a man who just got reelected without opposition. I dream about that someday.
What? The dictator? What? What the heck? Crazy lefties are so entertaining. I know. I'll go back to it in a second. I just want to, like...
Oh, I came to congratulate a man who just got reelected without opposition.
Can you imagine if Donald Trump said something like this? People would lose their freaking crap. Oh my gosh. All right, let's finish this interview.
I just like he represents in a way this kind of like the old ways of the Republican Party to some degree. I don't know. I'm editorializing to some fashion, but I think like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place and trying to be a mainstream Republican when mainstream Republicanism has moved to a different place. Maybe.
It seems like a conversation that he would really like
People
to
would
not
go
be
nuts,
included
dude.
in, and yet he became like the main character, and there's just no avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did seem much kinder to us in a way that like was refreshing. But you also see him, I don't think we like included too much of this in the piece, but like you also see him trying to win back almost desperately some of the voters that he knows he's going to lose because he stood up to Trump. So in our interview with him, I think he said that he wants to make sure there are no undocumented people casting ballots in the election. And Liz kind of pushed back to him and he was like, well, is that a big issue in Georgia? Are there a lot of like documented people voting? And he was like, no, not really. So it's like, who are you trying to appeal to?
Yeah, I would.
It's not like they're doing it in New York.
I'd certainly say that he is in a weird position right now. And he is in a position where he might lose soon, too. This primary is going to be in May. I think that based off of some polling, there's not a whole lot of polling. Also, should we look at polling and, take it with a grain of salt? But his approval is about at the same level as his disapproval right now with Georgians. So he could lose this race. He is not endorsed by Trump. Trump has said that he's a rhino, a Republican in name only. He has been the subject of the former president's rage, I would say, for quite a while now. But he did do the thing that he was constitutionally obligated to do in 2020. And he, has said publicly over and over that the votes were not there and that the former president lost. And he looked at us and said that kind of very surely and confidently on camera. So it is part of a bigger picture, I think, of Republicans and seeing Trump's influence on the Republican Party, even as he's out of power and lost the White House and lost the Senate and lost the House, that he does still have this immense influence over the Republican Party. I am really curious, and I know Izzy and I are going to keep covering these Secretary of State races to see if Mark Finchem and Jody Hice do win these primaries. I think that Hice has a pretty good chance of probably winning in Georgia. Finchem, we'll see. He's raising a lot of money. There are other folks who are raising money there too. And they currently have a Democratic Secretary of State there, so who knows, maybe the Dem ends up winning. But these, I think, races moving forward are going to be more interesting also in
I wish, Giovanni.
terms of seeing where the party is going with the former president, whether they're moving with these Secretary of State candidates who are maybe more extreme or not.
And I mean, the point being that it's up to the voters of these states to vote in these primaries. And it's an off-cycle year and it's a primary. So likely not going to be a ton of people showing up to the ballot. I mean, I don't want to make a prescription there. I hope every registered voter shows up.
Oh, they're already putting in excuses for when they lose. The only reason we lost this election is because no one showed up. Are you serious? I think more people will show up than ever because of how pissed people are.
And cast a vote. That's like the ideal. But it's up to a very small percentage of people who are actually going to show up on those days to put in office the people who are going to run the next elections.
Yeah.
So that's like, I mean, I was going to say, like, well, you know, it's up to the democratic system to figure this out for next time, and that's what we do. But I caught myself there because it is like the motivated people will show up, and it's hard to say if people who just think that elections happen and you go vote are going to be motivated to show up on a day like that.
Yeah, and just to make it like more pressing and sprinkle another factoid in there.
Please do.
So if there are 37 in 37 states, the Secretary of State runs elections, we found 21 candidates are running in 18 states this November who question the election results or want to find a way to be able to overturn them.
Wow.
So in 18 states, one of these people might win.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Like, something to watch for.
Well, thank you guys for continuing your coverage on these often overlooked.
It's literally
parts of our.
Literally one of the most insane things of like how a base doesn't even realize like some of the things that they're saying. You know, it's like you guys have been saying all these elections have been rigged for so long. This is literally, you thought Russia took over for when Trump won. You thought, I mean, it's so silly how people just forget some of the old news stories, the old arguments and stuff like that. What's this?
Brown Jackson. The Judiciary Committee has completed its hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I enjoyed meeting the nominee. I went into the Senate's process with an open mind, but after studying the nominee's record and watching her performance this week, I cannot and will not support Judge Jackson for a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. First, Judge Jackson refuses to reject the fringe position that Democrats should try to pack the Supreme Court. Justice Ginsburg and Justice Breyer had no problem denouncing this unpopular view and defending their institution.
The turtle has spoken.
The Judiciary Committee has completed its hearing.
So Mitch McConnell gives it a big no-no. Interesting. All right, I feel like I need to end on a laughing note. They are in panic mode, 100%.
Set to write a new chapter of American history, SCOTUS nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson remains.
Wait, let's see if there's anything interesting going on in the news right now.
What the consequences would be for crossing it, and that is getting a lot of criticism given the way this has played out in the past, including President Biden's former boss, former President Obama, who set a red line about chemical weapons use in Syria.
Giovanni, I appreciate you hanging out with me, brother.
Letterman, thank you for being live for us in Brussels. I know it's been a long day, a long night. It's another long day for you soon. I appreciate you being with us. Thanks. I want to turn now to an exclusive story out of southern Ukraine, where apparently Russians have kidnapped an American citizen working as a missionary, according to his family. We want to show you 50-year-old Dmitry Bodyu and his wife, Helen. She tells our Gabe Gutierrez that their son has not been heard from in nearly a week. Here's what else we know about him. He's a Ukrainian immigrant, but the two of them have lived in Ukraine for the past 30 years. His Instagram says he's a pastor at the Word of Life Church in Melitopol. Right now, neither Ukrainian officials nor the State Department are commenting. I want to bring in Gabe Gutierrez, who is in Lviv, Ukraine.
Saw that.
And Gabe, I know that you've been reporting on this. Our NBC station in Dallas has been reporting on this too. Talk to us about what we know and what has happened here.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. We've been tracking Dimitri's family members really across the world. KXAS, our station in Dallas, spoke with him near Fort Worth. I just spoke with his daughter, who's living in Hawaii right now. But this is quite a story, Hallie. His family says that Dmitry was abducted on Saturday when 8 to 10 armed Russian troops came to a home they were staying in Melitopol in southern Ukraine, and essentially his wife told her daughter that the troops had asked if he was an American. And so they haven't heard from him since Saturday. Again, our station KXAS in Dallas spoke with his father just a short time ago. Take a listen to what he had to say.
My spirit okay, but body sometimes. I believe God, I trust God, but my emotional sometimes, you look at me, I am so, my son more stronger. But I believe God save him. If not save here, he saved forever and forever.
So yeah, Hallie, at this point, the family's still waiting for word.
That's really sad. Can't imagine.
That must be very hard to live.
See what Indian News is talking about. I love this channel. It's nuts.
You are watching.
I feel like it's somebody that's live streaming like myself.
You are watching.
See?
India Today.
I didn't do that. They're doing that.
You are watching India Today.
What is going on with this website? It's like glitchy. Kidnapped for being American? Yeah, I don't really know how if I believe that or not.
Who is in Hawaii, and a little bit more about this couple. You know, that he, according to his family, had come to the United States when he was 17 with his parents, then spent a few years there, met his wife there, and then they moved back to Ukraine. But he traveled fairly often back to the United States, at least twice a year, to see family. They say he also preached in the United States. He had a lot of family around the Texas area near Fort Worth. But again, he actually, his daughter told us, very interestingly, Hallie, that he actually lived for a time in the Crimea region when it was annexed, until when it was annexed in 2014, and he left.
I see this American dude riding around the war zone with the Russians on YouTube. Oh, really? Who?
Commented on this. They were
Who? I'll look him up.
Reports Ukrainian officials have not commented on this either, but meanwhile, you know, the family is waiting for word, and as can be the case in these situations, you know, it is a very sensitive time because, you know, you don't know what the status, if any, of those negotiations are, if anybody's been in contact with the Russians.
Yeah.
Now, you know, the family is just waiting
It's
to
funny.
hear.
Dude, what's his name?
If anything comes of,
okay,
of
cool.
these developments, and it's
पहले आम चुनाव से लेकर के अब तक देखेंगे.
All right.
Set to write a new chapter of American history, SCOTUS nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson remained a pillar of strength, responding to a third day of Republican attacks. Take a look.
Republican attacks. Unlike Brett Kavanaugh, he just was receiving questions.
What I would hope to bring to the Supreme Court is very similar to what 115 other justices have brought, which is their life experiences, their perspectives. And mine include being a trial judge, being an appellate judge, being a public defender, being a member of the Sentencing Commission, in addition to my being a Black woman, lucky inheritor of the civil rights dream.
And there is no one there who has that experience. Okay. And then...
Oh, no one? Not Clarence Thomas? He doesn't know anything what it's like to be a Black person in America.
Democratic...
Amy Coney Barrett did not have.
She's not a Black woman.
But she didn't have that experience.
No, she did. But she had a woman, an experience as women.
As a woman.
But not a Black woman.
Patrick Lancaster. All right, I'm going to look him up after I finish this crapshoot of a interview.
And not as a trial.
And not a trial. Amy Coney Barrett was lacking with many things. But this woman is not. And Democratic Senator Cory Booker put her nomination into historical and personal perspective. Take a look.
It's hard for me not to look at you and not see my mom. Not to see.
Oh, is that a weird sexual thing? It's like a little Freudian thing.
See my cousins, one of them who had to come here and sit behind you. She had to have your back. I see my ancestors and yours. And so you faced insults here that were shocking to me. Well, actually not shocking.
I am Spartacus.
But you are here because of that kind of love. And nobody's taken this away from you.
Booker had her back. And she certainly held her own. But did it strike anybody as odd that you didn't hear more
I mean, it's funny. He rides with the Russian soldiers as a generalist, being American, and the things he shows are not funny. Okay, I'll look at it.
with something to say?
I felt they could have done more to. I felt they could have done more to counter the misinformation because, you know, the one thing we always say about Republicans here when we watch them is they fall in line and they're good at like sound bites and the broken record approach of gaslighting, which is.
Oh my God, yeah. Democrats they don't do anything like that, ever.
If I say it enough.
Mostly lies.
That's gaslighting, dude. That's gaslighting.
Right.
Oh my God, I have to rewind that. Oh my God. What the frick is going on? It is such a scam show.
Something to say?
Oh my God. Listen to this from the view. This is just nuts. It was like one of those times in my life where I'm like, am I hearing what I think I hear? They're talking about the gaslighting and how the media is treating the judge, Brown.
I felt they could have done more to. I felt they could have done more to counter the misinformation because, you know, the one thing we always say about Republicans here when we watch them is they fall in line and they're good at like sound bites and the broken record approach of gaslighting, which is if I say it enough.
Mostly lies.
That's gaslighting, dude. That's gaslighting.
Right.
They literally just keep saying it until someone believes them. And the stuff about I
just want to hold a mirror up to these people's face and be like, wait, what? You're serious right now, right? What is going on? What's happening in the world? You're talking about Republicans, not okay. Oh, they lose IQ with every show. That was like the most insane clip I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe even The View put this clip up like, yeah, get him.
I mean, I can't say this enough. The misinformation about her defense of child pornography, like the people who offend with child pornography, it's not true. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, it's not like these Republicans were just asking normal questions and she was responding in the way she thought was true. And then people created a narrative off that based on what she said, which is misinformation.
Proven it over and over. She's explained this to people. She falls within the guidelines. There's nothing about her that falls light on that crime, and I can't say that enough. What they're doing is it's a kind of dog whistle to QAnon, the extreme QAnon, because anything pedophilia, child pornography, it perks their ears up, and they expect these people not to read up.
I know,
not
but
look into it.
So we have a.
No. We're the ones looking into it and reading up on it. It's you guys that aren't looking it up and reading into it and just reading the narrative or whatever. Like,
A Republican Party that is appealing to a bunch of lunatics on the right who believed in that Pizzagate baloney also. I mean, these are supposed to be United States senators. And they are appealing to that fringe, that lunatic.
Can I point something out? Because, you know, everybody's talking about this, and I'm kind of shocked about it because I feel like if they were so concerned about pedophilia and sex crimes, why didn't they want to hear the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh? Why weren't they interested?
Because they were based on a lie. Sure, we can go down that road if you want to.
And that, why didn't they condemn Matt Gaetz, who is being investigated for allegedly sex trafficking a 17? Allegedly. I just want to make.
Thank you. Allegedly. I'm going to say it one more time. Allegedly. They sure love bootlicking. Maybe the boots that can come in different
Make sure you all heard me say allegedly.
Thank you for saying allegedly, which means that it's not proven.
Party stood behind Roy Moore.
Well, I was just about to bring up old Roy. You know, I always bring him up. You know, and they didn't say boo.
No, but the Democrats should have said it.
Well, somebody should have said it. Well, we're saying it. And I know you are ready. Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
She's got the receipts.
I do have the receipts. I think, you know, Democrats seem to always fall back on decency. You know, the old...
They're like a soundbite machine for me. It's just so silly.
Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. I think when they go low, we need to go to the Earth's crust. I think we need to get small like an ant, and I think we need to use the facts to our advantage. You know, Ted Cruz and others kept on talking, Rafael Cruz, rather, kept on talking about the Hawkins case, and which she sentenced this person to I think 3 months in prison, plus a 6-year supervised release. The facts of that case are very distinct because he was an 18-year-old, he was a teen, and he is gay, and he comes from a family, religious family, who abhors homosexuality. He went online to look at gay porn, and yes, some of the images were of children his age and younger. Those are the facts. This is not someone that participated in creating pornographic images. This is not someone that, you know, met with an undercover detective to trade information and possibly exchange sex acts. None of that happened. And so it was so disingenuous for them to take that one case and try to smear her record. The other thing is...
Why? It's on her record. That's what you do with records.
Hoping that people don't know the facts.
Know these facts. They don't have receipts. And I always have them. And the other thing...
Oh, my God. I'm amazing. Trust me, you can believe anything I'm saying.
About that, that was very disconcerting to me is that she was treated differently because she's a black.
I can't stand how people talk about how amazing of a... I am amazing, and if you were to question me ever, it's because you're a racist.
Black woman. Yeah. I stand by that.
Wait, what? I don't want to miss these beautiful moments.
They don't have receipts, and I always have them. And the other thing about that that was very disconcerting to me is that she was treated differently because she's a black woman. Yeah. And I stand.
God. Oh, yeah. All Republicans are racist. Yeah. And if you believe that, I feel sorry for you.
By that. I don't want anybody to all lives matter that issue. It is true. It is she suffered so many microaggressions. I remember Senator Kennedy telling her, "You're articulate."
You know.
PSA for white people and white men everywhere.
Don't tell me I speak well. Oh God. Jeez. Oh my God. Oh dear, but the transgender volunteer turning back up. Oh, I know.
Don't call a Harvard law educated.
Don't say I speak well.
Woman, articulate, clean, well-spoken. Don't do it.
Unless you would.
Yeah, don't tell me I'm an amazing human being. Don't tell me that, because that's a microaggression.
Do it to your mom.
Yeah.
Unless you have that same conversation.
You know, unless you would do it to one of.
What a stupid thought. I mean, seriously, whenever I listen to someone speak well and is very articulate or uses words that I would never use in my life, sometimes the kind of conversation comes to mind. It might not be based solely on, wow, I can't believe this black person has these words. Like, that's just so... To assume racism is what the left is about.
The other justices on the Supreme Court.
And stop interrupting her.
And stop interrupting
That was so appalling.
I mean, you know what? Look, she's getting in.
Yeah.
She's getting in. She's getting in. She's getting in. That's all we need to say. She deserves to be there. She earned the right to be there. And nothing you can say unless you have something that actually proves her to be unfit will stop this from happening.
Oh, God. That sounds like a threat. Jeez. All right, I'm going to look up this person. Patrick Lancaster. Whoa, what's this?
Famous for his reliance on Botox, the Russian president is all set to really feel the pinch.
What a sick budget. I know. Wow, he's got a lot of subscribers.
I'm Patrick Lancaster, and right now we are in a small village just outside Mariupol. Now, behind me is a hospital that is being used to house mothers and their children, refugees that have been coming from Mariupol. And we're going to talk to them and see what the situation is like, see what their travel has been like, see how they feel now, how they felt before, and just exactly try to get as much information as possible and show it to you uncut, just as it comes from the refugees, so you can have a bit of an understanding of what the situation is. Of course, we'll never fully understand the whole situation until we interview thousands, but this is a start, and now we're going to go see what we can find out.
Very poor.
The Russians let this dude in the battle? That's crazy.
Judge, please try to explain what you
Здравствуйте. Можно сказать, как обстановка здесь?
Здесь обстановка. По сравнению с Мариуполем ничего. Ну, мы беженцы из Мариуполя. Наш дом разбомбило. Мы убегали от снарядов с 2 ранеными на руках. Здесь нас приняли, здесь нам тепло и нас кормят. То, что на данный момент мы имеем. И не бомбят. Здесь не бомбят.
И как это был Мариуполь?
Мариуполь?
Да.
Очень страшно.
Как долго вы был здесь?
Здесь мы 1 день. В Мариуполе мы 3 недели сидели под обстрелами.
Почему не до эвакуации?
А до этого не было эвакуации. Сначала эвакуации не было, никто не организовывал их. Потом мы сидели в доме, и когда были большие обстрелы, мы просто боялись выходить из дома. У нас не было информации, не было света, воды, газа, не было связи. Мы были полностью отрезаны от мира. Мы сидели в своем доме и не имели никакой информации.
И Мариуполь контролировать был контролировать.
This is pretty cool, man. I didn't know. I'm gonna add this guy to my list of people to look after. Appreciate you for sharing that. I gotta go. I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. Giovanni, I appreciate you for hanging out with me, brother. It means a lot to me. Stop by. I'll go live again tomorrow night. Friday night stream is always a damn good time. So appreciate you for stopping in, hanging out with me,
to help with the cost of filling up.
and partying with me. It's been a good time. I'm going to end with this silly commercial break that I made, and hope you have a good rest of your day. I appreciate you. Bye.
My fellow Americans, it's me, Joe Byron. Make sure to support Derek O'Shea by going to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea. Easily one of my least favorite YouTubers of all time. And all you have to do is go down here, buy him a coffee, support his show, or even join as a member. $3 a month, that's all it costs. And you could be a big time supporter of his show. He's a good guy, but he's a piece of crap, and I hate him for that. I hope you have a great day, and as always, let's go get ice cream, and I need to get my sniff on.